Ma'ams and sirs, welcome to the Jared Bellmund Show. We are located on four wheels on I-26 in South Carolina, but my goal remains the same, to assist you in your personal and professional growth by talking to community leaders like my guests, Jim Smeaton and Dave Riddell. We come to you today on I-26 in South Carolina with my buddies Jim Smeaton and Dave Riddell, driving in a car on an interstate in South Carolina after attending a baseball game in Savannah. But let's back up a little bit to years ago when I first read Find Your Yellow Tuxedo by Jesse Cole. Amazing book. Yellow. He's got a yellow tux on the front cover. It's a lot of yellow. And it talks about his fan first theory, his company Fan First Entertainment, and the opportunity to do business differently. Now, I gifted my friends Jim and Dave this book last Christmas. And they were such fans, we'll continue to use that word through this, fans of the book, that conversations kept coming up month after month after month. Now, I've tried to get baseball tickets to the Savanah Bananas, I believe this is the third season, but they are sold out year after year because of the exciting entertainment and the show that they put on each evening, day, every game, every time. Now, this is not a Major League Baseball team. This is not a minor league baseball team. We're talking about college summer league baseball, selling out in Savannah where teams have failed before. I know this because I struggle in life as a Mets fan. The Mets failed there, but the Bananas are not going to fail there. So we're going to talk about going bananas with Jim and Dave today and our experience talking with Jesse Cole. Now, we ordered these tickets 2 months ago when we found out that there was an opportunity. Thankfully, a light in the darkness of quarantine and COVID was that we were able to get tickets to a Savanah Bananas game in August. Now, I felt safe. They were very smart in how they had hand sanitizer stations and required masks and how they handled food and how they changed the way they entertained. But it was still an impressive show, aka baseball game, that we got to attend. And the blessing that we really got, if you listen to our last episode, we got to speak with President Jared Orton. But then in the grandstands, as we're watching the game, we were visited by the yellow tuxedo wearer himself, Jesse Cole. And we are so thankful, Jesse, if you're listening to this, for you joining us in the grandstands in your Hakuna Matata t-shirt. We didn't get to see the yellow tux, but we're okay with that because most people see him in the yellow tux, guys, right?
Exactly.
And so we got to see him out of the yellow tux and in what Jared defined as taking a look from the other side of the register. And that's where we're going to start talking today, guys. Taking a look at our business from the other side of the register. So we didn't get a tour from Jesse Cole because it was his day, and all the employees do this, right? His team members take a look from the other side of the register. They take turns every night, every game. Someone is taking a view from a fan's perspective. And then they take a second view, right? They do this twice a season, or Jesse says he does it twice a season, where not only does he take a fan's view, but then he puts on his teenagers' t-shirts and works the concession stand and takes it from an employee standpoint of how it is to work for him, which is just amazing.
It is. It's great.
That they
I don't want to work for me.
Yeah. And so we're so thankful that that you were taking 6 pages of notes before the third inning and stopped and came and talked to us. And so let's talk, guys, about first what is behind the register to us. Because when Jared said it, like, we knew that Jesse was, I think Jesse called it being undercover, his night undercover.
Exactly right, yeah.
But when I heard behind the register, or the other side of the register, that's what it was. Jared said, Jesse will be on the other side of the register tonight. that's a business term, right? Undercover, right? You can go police, you can go like you're hidden. This wasn't being hidden. This was taking a view in plain sight of what the business is providing, right?
Hey, trying to find out what your customer's experience looks like from their shoes.
Yeah, from their shoes, from that perspective.
And we all think we know because we've been clients. I mean, Jared, you sell insurance, but you've also had to buy it. And I've had to go get custom insurance. So we all, I mean, Jim hasn't had to find anybody for care for himself.
Not yet, at least, right?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. And he hopes a decade or two away. But we all think we know, right? Because we've had some experience and we're in business and we've met some other business-minded people. You don't know until you are them. And everybody's going to be different anyway, but just what's your industry and what's your client? And it is putting yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do that or think they do that through client surveys and asking the customer. But being the customer is a different way to look at it.
Yeah. I mean, he spent from 5 p.m. till 10, 11 p.m. being a consumer of his own product.
Right. And he told us he couldn't meet with us before the game because he was going to walk into the stadium
as a guest.
Yeah. Just like every other
Front
person is
gates
doing
with
it.
a ticket.
Right.
Well, speaking of which, he told us a story about coming to the field and parking in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Jim, you want to tell us that story?
Yeah, it was interesting. He said it was a rainy day or something like that. I'm not sure if the game got rained out or whatever, but as a result, they parked in the fan parking area instead of where the employees normally park. And what he found out, he's driving his car in there, there's so many potholes in this area, the car's bottoming out and so forth. So just something simple like that, he was like, well, gosh, if I was a fan, my car's bottoming out and so forth, that's a bad first impression.
And they lease
to a Bananas game.
They lease the stadium and they park elsewhere. So this parking is a field that's municipality that they would have never known if they didn't drive in like a fan.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to lose my car and have to get new tires because I came to a game.
And it's the mindset that Jesse has of he wasn't thinking my car. He wasn't thinking, well, this isn't my responsibility. His initial thought was, this is a fan's first experience. This is their first touch of the banana experience.
They haven't gotten in the stadium
and we
yet.
haven't even been able to overcome that.
Right. We gave them a bad first impression,
But
and they're not even out of our car yet.
Right, but we need to own that and fix that.
Yeah, that's right.
And so it's just an amazing thing that, you know, Jared talked to us about how at 12:30 they have someone go ahead and walk the park outside picking up trash.
Yeah.
And it's not because, well, it's not our responsibility. It's we don't want our fans, we don't want our employees coming to work and having to walk through what might have been trash left in the park.
Right.
So they make sure that that's taken care of. And
Right.
and that's a mindset from that until when you leave. And we experience that wholly through the whole thing of what they are doing. And in our last episode, we talked about customer experience and focusing on what the most impactful part is. But they also talk about making a very small impact every touch of the way.
As amazing an experience we had, we didn't get to walk through the front gates. We walked in through the office and the business where we saw the team getting ready in their cubby hole. We went a business route and didn't get to see that.
But we did see it. It was, I mean, they had people high-fiving or air high-fiving, right?
Yeah.
They had a DJ out there in the
No, we saw
pavilion.
once in. We didn't get to walk in the gate. That's the only part we missed.
Yeah.
But
we were fully fans.
Stepping back to the parking lot, you know, a lot of times you look at it and say, okay, I'm going to a baseball game as a fan. You would tend to think that, okay, we need to make sure that once they're in the stadium, we got to make that a great experience. but they take that outside
Right.
from the minute they drive in off the street.
Yeah.
Which is great. We'll talk about it probably later. Jesse talked about, it's not just the baseball diamond and the grandstands. There are other pieces of that puzzle, stages he called them, that they not need to worry about.
And he redefines what those stages are,
right? Because
the parking lot is a stage to him.
Right. And being, stages being, ask him, he's in the entertainment business. So they're always on stage.
Right.
Well, it's more than one stage.
Yeah, and the parking lot is one of those stages. And I think that is where, if you can define what those stages are and make each stage presentation better, you start to win.
That's right.
Well, let's dig into that, Jim. I think that's a good transition there. So Jesse said his stages were the parking lot, right, the pavilion, the concourse, the grandstands, and the field.
And the field. Exactly. Five stages.
Most baseball teams look at it as the field is our stage.
That's right.
Right? And he said that, in 2020, the grand is biggest disappointment. That he can't offer the entertainment he wants to because he has to protect his fans.
Right. Yeah, the COVID thing has thrown everybody into a bit of a tizzy.
And I respect that choice, right? Sure. Like, we could entertain better, but we're choosing to protect our fans over entertainment. And that's okay, right? That's still putting fans first, in my opinion. He's not off mission with that. But he's got 4 other stages. Parking lot, pavilion. And I mean, what did we see in that pavilion? A girl on stilts?
Yep.
They even had
hula hoops.
Hula hoops, yeah. Pikachu,
and
right?
then there's a 2-person orchestra that's in one entrance, and then down on the other corner there's a DJ that ends up afterwards, and every concession person they're not dressed up in character, but they're friendly. So you're not walking 20 feet without them.
Right. So at the end of the day, the game, so to speak, which is going to start at 7 o'clock, but there's fans rolling in at 6.
Right.
What are we going to do to make it fun and exciting for them from 6 to 7?
And which, by the way, normal baseball, minor league and major league, players are paid, and they are they are there for them to get promoted. These college guys know they're getting a sense of when you get signed and play in the pros, it's still somebody's paying your paycheck, and we've got to know that our employees, we're not signing their check, the people are. So these college guys who are playing for basically free are learning, because of Jesse's way of doing it, that it's not about you, it's about the fan. And they actually have to go to a 2-day seminar on how to be fan friendly, and at the end of the game they all walk out and start dancing with everybody. Right? Not dance out of the dugout onto the field, out of the stadium and into the concourse. So even the fan friendly thing, the stage being the game, they gotta play, but they do parts of things during the game, but they have to know there's people watching and those people paid.
Oh yeah, and they're signing baseballs and they're available, and it's just a show the whole way. So let's talk about what our stages are. So David, there's a retail shop, custom apparel. What are your stages?
So it was actually mentioned that a website is a stage.
Yeah.
And for those of us, most people listening to this podcast are like the 3 of us, we are networkers, and customer service is the hi, may I help you. Customer experience is everything. So in my case today, one of my stages is when I'm at networking things. I mean, how do I represent me, my brand? Do they want to come to me rather than go online? So the out in public, and it could be social media and website out in public, it could be networking out in public. I'll put those all in one, right? The how people see you. I have a parking lot. And now that I'm thinking about it, see, I don't clean the parking lot. Somebody else does. But I have walked and stepped over the trash from the night before. I have done that before. I know that now because we're consciously talking about it. Then wait a minute. I might have to clean that said parking lot. Then how do the windows look? When you are walking in, how do the windows look? Then the door opens. Then the entire sales floor, customer service, right? From everything that everybody's evaluated on. The people, the visual, the this, the that. and it doesn't end. I mean, then the next stage is if we're doing it remote. Now we're talking on the phone. Now we're talking on email. What's the back and forth? You're not done, and that is part of customer service, but there's still a stage. And then the final unveiling of said product, right? So I think that's 5. Not that I was trying to get 5, but it's about the same thing.
Yeah. How about you, Jim? You got some different stages.
Yeah, we got some different stages. Yeah, we're in the service business going out to customers. They don't come to our store, so to speak. But at the end of the day, we've got our office is obviously a stage. For our employees, we do occasionally have clients coming in or their family members coming in, so we have to worry about that in terms of their experience while they're there. Not only that, when we're hiring employees, that's the first stage they see. Actually, first stage they see is when they pull up in the parking lot and see us, but the office stage, so to speak. And then, the client's home or the client's living room is another stage. The first time we meet with them, it's with our marketing team in terms of saying, okay, here's who we are, here's what we can do for you. So that's a stage, but then that stage transitions into, if in fact we do start service with that client, the stage is now the post-sale part of it in terms of us delivering that service. So, we've got a couple of different ways of looking at the same physical stage, the selling side of it and then the performing side of it. So, what can we do to make all of those stages a little bit more exciting, a little bit more memorable? And as I said, earlier in the last pod, a lot of the folks, they're not excited about having it. They don't want us. No one wants to need assisted living, which is really what we are. But what can we do to pull that barrier down and make it a better, more fun, more exciting, whatever it is, experience on that stage?
What's the detailed side of this? Anybody who's worked in theater, you think stage means what's the show? Yeah. What's the end result? Do you know how hard it is to pull off a great theatrical thing? It's not you walk up and you entertain. Blocked, stepped, boom, do this, you do this, that's the operational efficiencies that come with the customer experience. So it's a stage, here we go, each stage has processes to nail them down to be perfect in the end result of what the people see.
Yeah, and I think what Jesse's doing well is that he's redefining what his stage is compared to the rest of his industry, right? You go to other baseball games and they don't care about the parking lot. Like you park, you come in, like you said earlier, Dave, when you get inside to the game, then we'll greet you. I mean, there's times I've gone to minor league games and I don't see an employee unless they're selling me something. I don't see an employee until I'm looking for my seat and they're making sure I'm sitting in the right place, right? Like I don't feel like they're there to serve me. I feel like they're there to protect the people that bought the expensive seats. Yeah. And that's a different mindset.
But, you look at the stages and, shame on me for not seeing this before, but you go to a concert, you go to a Broadway show. The parking is a stage. Before you go in to see your show or your concert, you're hanging outside.
Yeah.
That's a stage.
Yeah, but oftentimes you're in a parking deck, finding your own way, walking around the outside. Imagine if a theater had somebody greet you in the parking garage, right? And every 20 feet, the characters before the show are saying hi to you, right? That is magic. You're not even there yet.
Yeah,
and you're greeted.
Changes the whole thing.
I mean, they do that. Disney does that. And that's why Jesse's 2 of the 3 people are P.T. Barnum and Disney. Because Disney, from the stinking tram ride before you get to the tickets is...
Right, before you even buy your ticket. Yeah. So from an insurance standpoint, we have multiple stages. And because of the digital age we live in, our digital stage... And ALLCHOICE wants to take that digital front, that our digital presence is an important stage to us. And we've worked really hard over the last 5 years to make sure that we have a strong digital front. But what I never thought about was something like claims, right? Like everybody wants to take care of a claim well, but if that is one of our stages, how are we presenting that well? And how are we making that a standard operating procedure across the board? And whether it be a small fender bender, or you lose your whole house, or your whole business floods, how do we make that a performance, right? Like how do we create an experience that that takes away from just the right, because that's most likely one of the worst things that's going to happen to those people in their lives.
Right.
How do we make it not so bad? And that's a difficult one, but I think a great opportunity and a great way to look at our industry as, well, the adjuster takes care of that. And, well, we set them up well with their policy so they'll get their money that they deserve. Like, maybe we flip it on its head and say, well, maybe we need a standard operating procedure as an agency of how we handle each and every one of our claims. You know, whether it be I got a chip on my glass to my whole house burnt to the ground.
Right.
Could be completely different. But I think that's what it is it's not just, I think a lot of business owners and a lot of business leaders look at, how do I make my SOP better, right? Like, how do I perform better? How do I create a increased customer experience that is just top level? But I think when you start looking for a new stage, start looking for that next opportunity that nobody else is looking at, that's when you start differentiating yourself from everybody else.
Well, and the one thing you didn't mention when we were talking about the early stages, like my parking lot, is one of the coolest things is when we finally got tickets. Jared gets tickets, and he gets an email that's not just a, here it is. Like, you get order from Amazon. Everybody's done it 5 times today, right? They've ordered 5 things from Amazon while we're sitting around, because this is what we do in COVID situation. Here's an email. We got a video that's a whole montage, a whole setup of, you were important, this is how we went about this, and it was a show.
Yeah.
There were costumes, there was a reason for you, a why we did it, where your tickets are, we're looking forward to it. So, and that's a transactional, boring email receipt, what would he do? They turned it into, it was like I was already there.
It was
and
a
when
show.
we walked in and met Jared and then Jesse, we already knew them because the president and the CEO and founder have already been in a video thanking us for getting tickets, and the tickets are brought to you by the Banana Nana, and they've got them stored and they christened them, and that's their stage.
Oh, yeah.
The online ticket purchase is a stage.
Right, and they know that that's a new fan, right? Whether it's a first-time buyer or a 30th time or a 300th time buyer, it's a new fan, right? They're going to come to this to see the show as a new fan.
Yeah, they're not assuming anything.
No.
They're not assuming, okay, this is the first time we got to make it special. It's the 50th time. It's got to be as special.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about that, they one of the things that Jesse said is every day do something you haven't done before. We saw when we were in the stands, we talked about it in our last podcast about the girl that really was excited about the donut.
Don't, never mind.
And but what Jesse saw, because we got really treated to a special experience that we knew it was coming. We just didn't know it was going to be right behind us.
And he didn't know it was coming, and because
Jesse
his team
didn't.
thought
Right,
it was
Jesse didn't know it was coming at all. And so to see that happen and just form out, but then Jesse was with us and commented that the individual who had the microphone and was holding the donut, getting this 14-year-old girl, creating such an experience for her, it was his first time ever holding a microphone and hosting a entertainment part of the show, and he's a volunteer. And so volunteer, first time doing something, and he really did something that day that he had never done before.
Yeah, that was great because, at the end of the day, they're challenging their staff or their fans to just do something different to make the experience special. And this was that person's, I'm going to do something different by holding the microphone.
Yeah. And it was, there's got to be some fear and trepidation in that. Yeah. There's got to be, and we don't know that individual, but we know individuals. And, if that's something he's never done before, there's a reason. And so to find the confidence and find a home.
Sometimes you're not given the opportunity. You've got everything else, but find the home is the opportunity.
But not just an opportunity, but a comfortable opportunity to push yourself and grow yourself in a way that is going to better yourself. And that the Savanah Bananas are creating that atmosphere where even their volunteers are growing. I mean, that's putting fans first. Right. That Jesse looked at that volunteer as a fan of his, right? A fan of the Bananas. that girl that was chanting was a fan of like everybody was a fan.
Right.
And it was just everybody growing and creating. And that team member, that volunteer is never going to forget that day that he stepped out of his comfort zone, took the microphone, hosted, and made this girl's day. And that girl is never going to forget that day.
That's right. But I thought it was great that, you know, the staff or their fans of Jesse and Jared, they understand the culture and feel empowered to be able to make an impact. You know,
that's
what can I do as my piece of it to, you know, as piece of this culture?
They bought in, and they're going to do better,
right?
Because they want to, not because they're told to.
Right, exactly.
Right, and that starts with clear, defined mission and values. Mm-hmm. If you don't have clear, defined mission and values, there's nothing for your people to grasp onto. And that's where a lot of managers and leaders miss the spot, is that they know what they want and they can tell people what they want, but then their people are just doing what the owner or leader is telling them. There's no real value add, there's no real vision of where they're headed or mission of why they're doing what they're doing. And that why might be in the owner, and the intent of the owner might be correct, but there's no why in the employee. Let's talk about that, because that was one of my questions to Jesse, was from a leadership standpoint. We're all, the three of us, not to boost our egos anymore, not that we need it, but we are highly engaged in our community, highly involved in our businesses. I asked the question, how is he backing off of that? Because we've seen in the last few years where he's allowing his team to do more and he's doing less. And he said, you have to be okay with 80%. And that's it. That probably sat as the number one thing I walked away from this whole experience, that you have to be okay with 80%. That your team is not going to operate at 110 like you do every night. And that if they can operate at 80, then you can coach them up. And that's your new job, is to affirm when they do great things, encourage them to continue doing those things, but then also be willing to do the hard work and coach them up from 80 to 100. And that's important.
It's huge, because at the end of the day, everybody who starts a business, day one, they're it. They're 100% of it. You're the face, you're doing it all. You're the chief cook and bottle washer, marketer, you name it type of thing. But as your business grows, you've got to be able and willing to bring on help, delegate, and do stuff. But the reality is, they're not you.
Yes.
So, you know, you've got to bring on people that you have the confidence in, but you've set the direction. And, you know, when you pass off and delegate responsibility, you know, rarely or if ever is it going to be 100% the way you would have done it. But you got to be, as you said, okay with 80%. And then work with them on getting it to 81, 2, 5, 90, whatever.
Yeah, any growth from that point. Right, because if you're okay with 80,
right,
and they get to 85, you get to celebrate that.
That's true. That's very true.
Instead
the hardest part is your brain letting you be 80. That's
it's the mindset. Well, and we saw Jesse taking 6 pages of notes before the third inning, and he didn't stop, right? After the fourth or fifth inning, we went up to the grandstands, or up into the skybox area, whatever, and we kind of had an elevated view from the outfield, and Jesse ended up over there under cover.
3 more pages.
And was literally scribbling and and we were watching him, which is just, you know, we were watching him more than we were watching the game for a while there. But
he was more entertaining. It was a slow 3 innings.
Slow 3 innings.
Wow.
But you know, what it is that he was willing, he could have stepped in and solved some problems immediately last night. But his patience became that leadership virtue that was needed for his team to have long-term success, right? Because he could have stepped in and fixed it tonight or last night, but would it have ever changed in the long term?
Right.
Right. he could have put on a yellow tux and created more excitement than we probably saw last night. But would that help his team in the long run?
Right. He had a plan for a rain delay. There was a rain delay, and it was a short one, not a long one. And he would have remembered and executed, said, boom, 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 keep everybody going during the rain delay. But because they hadn't had one, and he wasn't the maitre d', then it went, And so that experience was missed a little bit. And so he got to sit back and say, why was it missed? What do we do? I shouldn't have to be the one doing it all the time. And they could talk about it. And then the next rain delay, which will be 4 hours, and they won't know what to do with themselves, they'll ace it.
Right. And that's the being okay with 80% and being willing to grow and put in the hard work to make your team better.
Yeah. Using what he wrote down on those 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of notes as teachable moments,
right?
Over the next day or 2 or 3, is going to help them get from 80.
But it's not 82. Even that. Here's the deal. It's a long day. Game's over. It was 11 when we were outside the front. It was a longer game than normal. So most games at 9:30 or 10. But most of the time, it's like, hey, I'm part-time. Peace out. I'm going. They have a meeting afterwards. Everybody pick up trash, not the trash picker-uppers. Everybody, that's part of the job we spoke about in episode 1 of this. But now we're going to have a meeting. And so he's talking about it fresh on the topic, but he's also not ripping them. So he's going to say, this is what I saw, all the congratulations, whether he was in yellow tux or not, talk about all the big things, and then the next day get on it. So there's not write notes for later. It's hot topic.
But he also said that he will affirm people in public. He will celebrate people in public, but he will coach up in private.
Oh, but he got to coach up all the big things right then, and then the next day have his main team talk about it.
Yeah, but I'd be surprised if he pointed out negatives that night.
Right.
I'd be surprised. Which
he's going to talk about the 80%.
He's going to talk about how great it was, and what he's going to talk about. Right, from what he said to us, in the way he operates, is that it sounded like he would be talking about the team member with the microphone with the donut.
Right, exactly.
Affirming that, saying that should be happening. That was a great thing. And then everybody looks at that person and says, well, I didn't do that tonight, right? And that's what you want. Everybody's saying, okay, well, that's the expectation. Let's chase that,
and
right?
We didn't stick around long enough to get a donut because the dude struck out.
Yeah, he did. He did strike out. That was a pitiful
You get a
donut
the next day, and we were staying out of town. Crud, no donut.
But yeah, that leadership step is a difficult one for many leaders, but an important one to take. That's
right. All of us in the chamber, that's what we started. The 3 of us started immediately going, oh my gosh, we like going to these. People know us as these. That we're a face of our business, or we're all in FABA and the organization. And it's like, what if? Right? Do sales go down? Does anybody know us? Hey, build it internally.
Right, and even not from a the face of the business, but from my standpoint, could I hand off the sales process? Can I hand off the claims process? What can I hand off to the team to take care of? And I've learned this a lot over the last 18 months with ALLCHOICE is, I didn't want to hand off billing. It's a time suck for me, but it's another touch point with the client where I can win favor points. And I know I can do that well. Well, if my team is doing it 80%, I need to be okay with that. And I'm lucky that with billing, they're probably doing it at 105%, and I'm doing it at 100%, so they're really better at it than I am. But the claim process, maybe not, right?
Right.
So who knows, what I have to start trusting them with.
I've never gotten donuts from your person. I got them from you. So
right, and that's the case in point, is that I know how to. I can trust myself to be 110%. Right. But trusting others to be 80% is difficult. Which, when you say that out loud, is like, wow, that's probably not a good thing that I can't trust others.
Sounds like a big step back.
Yeah.
It's a mental thing. Yeah. It's a Band-Aid. If you do it, it's not going to hurt as badly as us thinking about it, because the pain of stepping back is woeful. Right? When you actually do it, if you've had the right people and you have the right processes and the customer experience, probably not bad, but you got to be willing to do it.
Yeah, and that's most things in business, right? We can talk about this and talk about this and talk about this, but the execution of it is the differentiator of success in small business. So let's talk about one of our favorite quotes that we've been talking about. Yeah, don't be be the only. So Jesse said, don't be better, don't be faster, don't be smarter, don't be cooler. You have to be the only. And so he has a few only. He is the only dancing first base coach. He has the only
professional
wrestler, yeah, Zulu coach, right? He has the only grandma coach, right? And so these are things that only the Savanah Bananas have.
It's easy to say, I'm quicker, I'm better, and that to me was just brilliant.
Yeah.
When he said that, if it ends in ER, that's not special.
And we remembered everything, and somehow that got tucked away. And then in our tiredness last night at midnight, which none of us are midnight guys, it was like, that would just, it was like, wait a minute, that was such an epiphany. It wasn't lost on us, but it came back in a blaze of glory.
Because at the end of the day, it just goes back to the whole premise of, find your yellow tux. What makes you different?
Yes.
What is unique?
That makes a perfect wrap up because that's the book.
What is unique about you that none of your competitors have?
None, right? You are the only.
So, the only, exactly right. So to me, that's, and at the end of the day, it's such a simple concept. Well, it's not complicated.
No.
So it's like, let's stop complicating the stuff that's not complicated.
Well, he said, what if we aren't part of an independent league? What if we create what if we create our own couple of teams? What if we don't play a season one? Or what if
instead of looking at an industry and saying, this is what they're doing, let's do it better, say, why are we doing that at all?
Many of Jared's viewers are local, like we all live in, is Asheville. Asheville tourists were the first. They invented Thirsty Thursday. It is patented in Asheville tourist office, right? So for a time, they were the only. Well, last night we were talking about the Bananas, and they did a game backwards. Right, Jim was telling us about this, and it's like the seventh inning stretches or the national anthems at the end of the game, because that's where it would be.
Right, if you played the ninth inning first, the second inning,
they probably wore their clothes backwards.
Right, they had the fireworks before the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The seventh inning stretch in the third inning, because it's crazy.
Right, and so and then during the game they do those shenanigans, those entertainment things every inning, not every 2 innings, and the team has to come out and they'll do a little dance here and they'll do some different things. So the players are doing some onlys, and the staff is doing some onlys, and the organization is doing some onlys. So it's not hey, tonight this is going to happen. No, a whole bunch of onlys. But if you can get one, it's a good start.
We had talked about it when we were sitting out on the right field line after we met with Jesse. We're just kind of sitting out there, took a different perch of things, and we were looking down, and one of the things we saw was all they call them teammates had the yellow shirts on. They were always in entertainment mode.
Right.
None of them were sitting still.
No one's leaning on a pole.
Exactly. They're all talking to people, dancing, doing something. And you don't see that. Sometimes you go to a baseball game and a guy at the top of the stands checking your ticket, you're just standing there.
And that guy in the wrestling mask, the whole full over, got to be worn. The guy in the gorilla mask, the guy in the Pikachu mask, it's hard to be an only sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I always think too, I sat in a room of insurance agents one time, and there probably had to be several hundred, not thousands, but several hundred insurance agents in a room. And the presenter said, raise your hand if you have the best customer service. Well, how many people do you think put their hand up?
Everybody.
Mostly everybody, right? Like a couple people just didn't. Those same people that just don't raise their hand didn't raise their hand, but most everybody raised their hand. And he said that's impossible. There's only one person in this room that can raise their hand.
That's right.
There's only one person in this room that has the best customer service, and that's if that person is in this room.
That's exactly right. That's right.
Like, what is it? What do you all think that you're the person? Like, even if you're the best in this room, you may not be the best. And that's where what the got me was like, I could be faster, but I'm ever going to be the fastest, right? But if I could be the only, and it's different, and I could define my business by that, then it's special.
Yep.
Very true. Very true.
Well, listen, guys, this was a great conversation about our trip down to the Savanah Bananas. So thankful for Jesse and Jared and all his teammates and fans just being great hosts. We had a great time. You guys have anything else to say about our experience at the ballpark?
No, it was just different. And, the only thing I would say is for anybody who's out there, don't be afraid to do stuff like this. Sit back, take an honest look at yourself. Don't be afraid to sit back and say, well, I fall a little bit short here, And if it's a matter of reading a book or getting a little educated or, trying to do whatever you need to do to find out what makes you different, better, only. Do it.
Right, and so here's what's cool. Yes, the three of us are friends and get along and are on a board in an organization and have challenged each other before, maybe not this way, right? I mean, Jared and I have always run things through each other. But then we had a love of baseball and we decided to go on this little trip. And it was weird because the normal business trip, you guys are business tripping and there's a whole lot more social. It was full throttle business among friends, but it made us think differently. It made us challenge. And so it was like going to a seminar you don't want to. In this case, it was cooler, but we got this look through each other's eyes, not just our own. And each thing we learned, we were talking about the book on the way down and the experience. And then we were talking about it on the way back from the game. And now we're talking about it again on No Rest. So challenge yourself. Don't stop learning. Have an accountability partner, in general, in life, right? And learn from others. We learned from Jared, Jesse, and the Bananas, and then we learned from David, Jim, and Jared. It
was a great time. Go ahead and get on Amazon, Savanah Bananas website. You can get a signed copy of Jesse Cole's book, Find Your Yellow Tuxedo. Read it, highlight it, bend the pages, tear it up. You are going to get some value from that. Then reach out to one of the three of us. We'd love to hear if you read that book, if you research into the Savanah Bananas, if you have already read the book and love the Savanah Bananas, get down to a game. Listen, I was direct messaging back and forth with Jesse before the game. It was a pleasure. He is engaged. He knows what Fans First is. He wants to live Fans First. He sent Jim a video thanking him for contacting him, letting him know that we would set up, that he had to go undercover, but he would set up a meeting with one of his staff or the president himself and sent a video, took the time to create a video. So we did the same. We sent him a video back. Have the courage to do things like that. Don't think that you are not able. Don't think that you have to have a special kind of courage. We are not special individuals. We are just three gentlemen who are excited to run our business better, and we're willing to ask for help. And Jesse and Jared, thank you for giving us that help. Thank you for opening up your minds to us. Thank you for opening up your stadium to fans and doing what you're doing, not only for your community, but for baseball.
Somebody
for
traveled
business.
from like Oregon to see it.
Yeah, Utah. So
Utah.
Yeah, Utah. So go ahead and check out the Savanah Bananas. We were so thankful that we bought tickets, that we had the opportunity to go down there. And if you check out our social media posts from it, within minutes, within hours, they have responded back, showing their gratitude for us. So it is a mutual gratitude back and forth. Check out our first episode if you didn't. We talked about our tour of the stadium with Jared, Orton, the president. This was on with Jesse Cole when we sat in the grandstands and were able to experience the whole Bananas show. Also, I'd appreciate you going in, following along on Spotify, iTunes. Give us a review, give us a like, take care of us. Comment on something, ask questions, reach out to me if you can. Jim and Dave are the same way. They'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys for listening.